Hi, I'm Chris Burns from Checky Gurus and welcome back. So this week I want to talk about cyber liability insurance. Some people will call it cyber insurance. A lot of people call it cyber liability insurance. Basically, it's usually a rider that comes along with your E&O insurance, your errors and omissions insurance. And I want to give you the top 5 things it should cover so you understand what you're getting into. So I'm not an insurance broker, so please talk to one. But what we've seen is the requirements are getting higher and higher. So when you engage with an agent, normally what they're going to do is give you an application, you're going to fill it out, and then they're going to give you a requirements thing saying that you have to go through. And it's usually checklists where you have to go through and it's like boom, 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 boom. For us, it was over 140 items that we had to cover. For a normal company, it depends on your revenue and whatnot of like how much they're going to require for you to do. So let's just start with the top 5 things that cyber liability insurance should do for you. So number 1, it should cover data breaches. Anytime you have like some sort of breach of your network, there's usually a security incident, maybe somebody steals data. Once they do that, if it's personally identifiable information, if it's personal health information, if you fall under some sort of breach notification, you want your cyber liability insurance to cover that, because it's not just going to cover the legal fees tied to it. It should cover customers' notifications and tracing. It should cover IT forensics. It should cover crisis media relations to support any network liaison work with regulators and authorities that have to take place. Number 2, it should cover business interruptions. So normally, if you have a breach, it's not going to be covered by your normal insurance for business interruptions. So you want to make sure that your cyber liability policy covers you if you can't work. An example would be if you do get ransomware, their cyber liability policy might say, hey, look, you can't touch any of those computers until we get forensics team in there to figure out like what we can do about it. Well, that could be 2 days, 3 days, it could be longer. So that goes back to like having maybe like a policy in place for how do you handle incidences and disaster recovery, business continuity, but you want to cover that business interruption because that's going to be critical to your business. So it should cover loss of earnings, digital asset damage, and should cover any kind of costs incurred in things like staff overtime and whatnot. So number 3, cyber extortion. Going back to ransomware. If you get ransomware, cyber extortion is very critical for this. If you can't recover from backup, unfortunately, you may have to pay the ransom, and that's where you want cyber extortion to be covered. It'll also cover any kind of legal fees or specialist IT experts to come in there and help negotiate that as well. Number 4, third-party liability. Sometimes you've done everything right, but you use a third party and there's some sort of breach. You want to make sure that your cyber liability insurance helps you cover third-party liability. So it could be privacy liability, media liability, management liability, and bodily harm or even property damage. And the 5th one is first-party liability. So you want to make sure you're covered if something happens like a wire transfer, some sort of social engineering trick that happens that causes you to have some sort of issue. It could be invoice manipulation. Somebody gets into an email account, sends out a fake invoice that has somebody wire money to a place that isn't you. Reputational harm, it's like system failure, things like that. You want that stuff to be covered. So that's first party. So you want to make sure that also that it covers any kind of post-attack legal action that might occur. So those are my top 5 things to look for. We review cyber liability insurance policies a lot with prospects and clients. We want to make sure that they're getting enough coverage to cover like what they think their liability is. It's good to have an expert come in because there is going to be a list of things that you have to do. It could be something like you have to have encryption, you have to have multi-factor authentication, you have to make sure that you have backup, not just on-site, but off-site and stored and things like that. So you want an expert to come in there and do that. Don't just check the boxes. That can lead to them not covering you in a breach, something like that. So now, one last thing. Let's just cover how much should it cost. So these are not definite numbers. These are just estimates that we've seen. We've seen that typically for $1 million coverage on a smaller business, it's probably going to be about $1,500 a year. Now, as your revenue goes up, what we've seen is that the insurance goes up. So even if it's like $1 million in coverage, if your revenue isn't $1 million, let's say your revenue is $5 million and you're looking for $1 million in coverage, it could be more than double what maybe like a $2 million company is. So keep that in mind. When you start looking at it, it's going to go infinite. It's going to go up a little bit, or it can go up exponentially based on how much revenue you have. Now let's talk about us. My cyber liability insurance has quadrupled in the last 2 years. And I'm looking for it to actually go up further next year. Now, because we obviously provide IT and cybersecurity services, we also fall under extreme lists that we have to take care of. Like I mentioned before, I had over 140 items I had to check boxes on. They have to see my legal agreements. They have to see anything that we do with a customer. So we have to get covered that way. It's a process. It will take you some time. So don't wait. You want to go engage with somebody right now to see what you can do. We partner with one. If you want more information about that, let me know. Comment down below and I can get you, we can have like a quick conversation about it. I can get them on the phone. This isn't a sales call for that, but this is just me saying that we do have a relationship with one that exclusively offers cyber liability insurance. So until next time, hope you have a good week, and I'll see you soon.